Good morning. Let's talk about the test. I know. Well, we don't have to. You could just.
No, I mean it's a yay day.
It's a yay day. Look at the weather. The sun is shining. The birds are singing. The leaves are turning. I feel I have a song in my heart.
What song is it though?
Not as happy a song as you might think. Okay.
Do you know anything about the stock market?
I do.
Do you think that, because he just had the thing up about Apple,
Yeah.
it's like down 100 points,
Yeah.
because the guy died,
Yes.
and everybody's freaking out.
Guy.
Steve Jobs.
Come on, Kate.
I think it is it's a short-term thing, but almost everyone who pays attention to such things acknowledges Apple almost went out of business in the early 1990s. Steve Jobs, who started the company, got forced out of the company in the mid-80s, and Apple went from being a player in the computer market to being a non-entity, almost disappeared. And then they were like, gosh, I wonder what happened. And then some bright person said, we got rid of Steve Jobs is what happened. Let's invite him back. And they did. And Apple went from a non-entity to the world's largest corporation. More money on hand than the next largest, which has been the largest for my entire lifetime, ExxonMobil. And so people who buy stocks said, I wonder what's different. Oh wait, Steve Jobs. And the ideas that have transformed communication, MP3 players, the first one, the iPod, smartphones, the iPhone, and now tablet computers, the iPad, all of them came from his brain. And the way they look and the way they work, obviously a team of people working on it, but all him. So with him gone, yeah, sometimes leadership matters. And in the case of Apple Corporation, he's probably 25% of their value. So yeah, I think. But it'll bounce back because people will realize they still, you know. Yes.
This is probably going to be tangent that we really need to follow, but it confuses me. Why wouldn't people sell stocks and have those go down once he stepped down as CEO and was like, I'm done?
They did.
Let's go.
Because he was still around, and the stock market is an irrational, not a rational place, and it's why we have bubbles and people buy, or sell, and panic, because it's fundamentally irrational. The rational thing to do is say, this is a good company, I'm keeping my stock, or this is a bad company, I'm selling my stock, and people just hoped that magically he would heal from a rare, untreatable form of pancreatic cancer, and miracles would happen. He would invent the eye cancer, and everything would be fine. And that didn't happen. It's too early. Isn't it? It's too soon. My fault. My bad. My bad. Sorry. Too soon for a Steve Jobs joke. That's too bad. Just who I am. All right, let's go ahead and put the Rashomon questions in the Dropbox. I'm sorry, Kate, did I answer your question? Good. It's unusual for me.
It was like a super explanation of yes or no.
I don't do that. I don't do that.
There's never a yes or no.
I would keep that in mind as I was writing an essay on the nature of truth.
Did you say yesterday there were going to be true-false questions on our test?
It's all true-false.
What?
Yeah.
So can
How
you
funny!
just
How funny is that? How funny is that?
That's good.
So here's the really interesting thing. Will any of you have the guts to answer everything as false on the principle that truth cannot be known?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
You'll have the guts to give me a 0.
even more interesting, will you then have the courage to say, since all truth is relative, all of these are true to someone, therefore they're true, and mark everything as true? I would so admire you. I mean, I'd still give you an F, but I would so admire the fortitude of your soul that was able to do that. I really, really would. I'd be impressed.
Somehow I don't think my parents would admire that.
No, I don't think they would either. And when I had a parent conference, they'd be mad at me for saying that, but wow, it would be deep and impressive.
So
So there's actually a right answer.
But I was gonna say, how do we do this now
It's
that?
not just defeat the purpose of your class.
I know, isn't that funny?
It's not really funny. It's kind of.
I think it's the coolest thing ever.
I think it's really
Kind of
funny.
obnoxious.
It's
Frustrating isn't really the word.
no, because see, here's the problem. All of you
Oh, good
smarty pants honor students who work so hard and take such good notes, and every time I say something that you think is deep, you furiously type it down and then don't understand it when you go back and look at your notes later. What the hell was he talking about? How does this relate to anything? Can't he stay on track for once and just give us an answer?
No.
And then I give you a true-false test. That's got to be funny.
It drives me crazy.
It's
to the
not meant
max.
to be mean.
I'll laugh at those kids.
No, I'm laughing with you, not at you.
Can you give me an example of a question?
Well, isn't everything? That's the point.
Well, you're not really predictable that you're laughing because it's your own test.
That's why it's so great.
Well, why would you do that?
I'm gonna start blaming the fact that I'm not doing well in chemistry on the fact that this class blows my brain to bits and I don't have time to code between the 5
I
minute
suck at math. Third year chemistry was the worst idea ever.
I think it's all. I think that may be a different issue, but still. Okay, so here's the thing, smarty pants honor students. Don't overthink the questions. The questions are not written in such a way to be tricky. They're not designed to trick you. So please, read the question and go with your gut. And if you don't have a gut, you're like, oh, I don't remember that, move on. And then come back and try to figure it out, okay? There's no pattern. They're not organized in a particular way to give an interesting thing. That would be me working much harder than I'm willing to do. So understand that I don't even know if there's a balance, but there's lots of true and there's lots of false. The way that I can write a true-false test on something like this is largely sticking to the text. So in other words, what's being asked is not what it means, but what was in fact said. Some of that's going to come from, for example, the brief snippets I did before readings on, for example, Keats. I gave you a 5-minute rundown of his life. Those things could show up. So if you took notes on those, it would behoove you to go back and look at them. Other stuff comes out of the text. There are questions on Rashomon. So for example, I'm going to ask you in Rashomon, who's in the bandits version of the story? Who kills whom, and was the sex consensual, and those kinds of things. So you need to have been paying enough attention that you know not whether he's right or wrong about it, but what his version of events was, right? Precious few, if any, of the questions are interpretive, so you should still be able to answer them. I would not give you true-false on, like, what was I thinking, or what does it mean. It's true-false on whether or not it appears in the text, in the painting, in whatever, okay? That's exactly what's being tested. What's being assessed is not have you understood it, that's the essay that you're supposed to be writing. What's being assessed is have you been attentive and present, okay? And a few of them I will acknowledge are nitpicky. It will separate the A's from the B's and the B's from the C's, okay? If you do worse than a C, you have not been entirely attentive, okay? But I would think that if you have been attentive, you're going to be okay. Don't overthink it. We're going to go through some questions to give you an example. Everything that we've done appears on the test. The paintings, the poems, the short stories, the writings, everything appears on the test, at least in a few questions.
Oh, is there an essay on the test?
There is not.
Okay, so it's like a truth essay.
Unless I change my mind tonight and add something. Which is possible. Okay?
What about the court cases?
Court cases show up. Everything shows up. Everything shows up.
This is such a center question. What's this relate? What's this like worth in comparison to the essay, grade-wise?
It will be worth about the same as the essay. They'll both be worth. This one is worth 200 points. The essay will be worth 200 points. Your presentations were worth 100 points, but then the things that went with it were worth 20 and 40. So big stuff is generally 200 points. Homeworks are generally 20 to 40. Is that helpful?
Yes.
It is a center question.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You know, you need to, tempest of the soul needs to be laid. Shall we talk about some questions?
Yes.
Everything all right? Good. What's up with you? Life okay? What do you do for fun? What does Lindsay do for fun? Music, dance, art, sport.
Band. She's in band.
Band. What do you play? Clarinet. Not easy. Not that fun. Jazz? Jazz? You think? No. Why the clarinet? Just give us a minute. We're good. What you chose or what was chosen for you? Interesting, right? Good. I feel like I know her just a little bit better. She doesn't talk a lot, so I, she's so glad we could all share that. Okay. So the first thing we did was Pluto. Is it a planet?
No.
There you go. That's the kind of question that we're looking at. According to the International Astronomical Union, it's not. Why?
It has an irregular orbit and it's
See, now there's an interesting answer. If I were writing an essay on truth, I would have this phrase in my mind at least at some level. Because they said so. Court cases, all kinds of times where we come across because they said so. But because the person in charge said so, and the people in charge said, it has characteristics that other planets don't. Irregular orbit, weird moon that's too big or it's too small, it hasn't cleared its gravity field, and blah blah. Anyway, so it's a planet. But okay, so those are the kinds of things that show up on there. Okay, then we went to the Republic, and we talked quite a bit about the Republic. We did some biographical stuff. You should know it, like who taught whom in that list we did. What did Socrates write?
Nothing.
Right. Plato wrote everything. Socrates, nothing. Are most of the people in the allegory of the cave, are more people chained to the floor, porters, or philosopher kings? Chained, and he thinks that's true in society as well. Yes?
I think most people are chained to the floor and they don't realize they're chained.
Oh, true. I'm sorry. You wanted to have an actual conversation. That's great, and I admire that. Today's not the day. I was asking more of a rhetorical question.
Sorry.
No. I appreciate the enthusiasm and the partaking. Today's not that day, though. Today is just a getting information out rather than pursuing ideas. That's what we do every other day. Today's just making sure we know what's there.
Who are the porters in our
The
society?
porters in our society are the sheepdogs, which is the people that protect us and
So
fight the
would you say, like,
wolves.
our government would be the porters?
See, that's a really interesting question. And the answer is kind of. Because what he thinks the government should be is just the people who are really smart, and the porters are the military or the police or the whatever who keep the wolves at bay. Okay? And then the philosopher king comes from the ranks of the military.
Does he think that the porters are above those chained to the floor?
Yes. Each successive layer is chosen by whoever the current philosopher kings are to select it out and educate it at the next level because we see potential in you. So for example, if we were that society, if I were the philosopher king, sorry, I just needed a minute to think about that. If I were the philosopher king, for example, and I were in charge of an institution, I don't know, like a specialty center or something, and I were choosing from among all of the people who were in a school system, like a cave, and I selected out through, I don't know, like an interview or application process, those who I thought were capable, it would be as if they were the porters. And then from there, you would choose the best ones and you would educate them to be moving further on. I mean, just as a hypothetical.
Can you Can people be out of the cave but not Philosopher King?
Yes, in fact, that's another great question. Look at you.